Hello friends, welcome to today's tutorial. Today we are going to learn about some of the important terms used in OAuth 2.0 framework. If you don't know what is OAuth 2.0 used for, then please refer to watch my another video where I explain how OAuth 2.0 works and what are the purpose and all the definitions. So in this video is completely I try to explain each terms which is very much important you should understand before using the auth 2.0 in your Spring Boot application. So let's start. The very first thing we have the resource owner. So here I will explain you with one scenario where I consider one thing. I consider that you try to log in my website or the pixeltrice.com with the Google. Okay, you already have the account in the Google and you wanted to use the Google to log in our website. Generally, when you try to sign up into the some other application, you might see the something like that. Once you click on the sign up, that application give you the option to sign up either with your social media account or either with your by manually entering your email address, password, and all the details. So here I am consider this example, and so I am considering that we are going to sign up with Google. Now, see, this is the flow diagram, and one by one I explain along with the terms what is the purpose of each terms which used in the auth 2.0. So the very first term we have resource owner. The see here the definition I have written. You are the owner of your resources. Here, resources refer to your Gmail contacts, such as email addresses of your colleagues or the friend. So in this in our scenario, I'm assuming that you wanted to access your all the contacts detail which is already saved in the your Gmail account, and you wanted to access all the email addresses which present in your Gmail account and wanted to display in this pixeltrice.com. So at this point, you are the resource owner because you are only the person having all the details of your friend's email account or all the contacts email account addresses which already stored in your Google server. So in this case, resources owner is you. Now come to the next point, client. It is the application that tries to access the data such as email address of your friends or of your contacts from the another server. So in this case, the another server is Google. Okay, when you try to sign up with the Google, and then at that point it will client is considered to be pixeltrice.com because from this application we are trying to sign up. So this is the client in our case. Now come to the another third point, we have authorization server. This server in which resources owner already has an account. So in our case, you already having account in the Gmail. So Gmail or the Google called as authorization server. So that's why I've written authorization server here in the Google portion. Now another terms we have resource server. Resource server is the server which contains all the details of the resource owner. In our scenario, the resource server is defined in the Google itself. So what is the meaning of this? You wanted to finally access all your contacts email address which is present in the Google. Okay, so you assume that Google having one API. If you called it API, that will give the all the email contact email addresses which already stored in that Google. It will give in the form of response. So that API which give the email address in the response, that API is called resource server, and resource server is also here in the Google itself. So that is the resource server. Now another point we have the redirect URI or the callback URL. That means when you successfully sign up with the Google, it will redirect to the client application, that is PixelTrice in our case. So once you sign up with the Google, then it will again redirect you to here. This is PixelTrice or the client application. That is the meaning of redirect URL or redirect URL. Alright, now come to the another response type. At the time of redirect, the authorization server attaches some code along with that redirect URL, which technically we call authorization code. So once it redirecting, this is the authorization server, it is redirecting back to the client application. So it is not redirecting alone. The authorization server also provide a authorization code. You see here I mentioned authorization code. So it will provide the authorization code as well. Now come to the another point, scope. This term is used to define the scope of the permission given to the client application by the authorization server, and the scope can be read, write, update or delete. That means this is the client PixelTrace. It tried to access the data or the contact email addresses which already defined or declare in the Google server or authorization server, but the authorization server only given a permission to read the data or to access the data so that client will display in their screen. So they did not provide to update or delete the data. They only authorization server only provided a scope as a scope to read the data. So that is the meaning of a scope. Now another point we have consent. Suppose that client requested from the authorization server to provide the scope or the permission to update the data. So previously the authorization server only provided to read the data, but this time client requested from the authorization server that it also wants to update the data. So at this point, this term we called consent. This term we used called consent. So at this point only the authorization server will look into that, and the authorization server will decide whether this permission is acceptable or not. That is the meaning of consent. Now come to the another term, client ID. This ID is given by the authorization server to the client so that authorization server knows the client. Okay, so that is the thing. Client ID is provided by authorization server for the if in the future when the client wants to contact to the authorization server, then client must have the client ID so that it can show to the authorization server, and authorization server will verify that this is the valid client ID or not. If it is valid client ID, then they will establish the communication. There might be exchange of some data going through once it is verified. That is the use of client ID. Now we have the client secret. It is a secret password that only knows to the client and the authorization server. This is also one terms client secret, which is already also provided by authorization server so that they can more in a in a more secure way they can communicate with each other and they can exchange the information. Okay, that is the use of client server. Now another point we have authorization code. What is the authorization code? This code is which first provided by the authorization server to the client, and at the time of accessing the resource server, it is exchanged with the access token. See in this diagram. So the first time when it is signed up, then if it is go through all the process at the end, it is also authorization server providing the authorization code. Once it get the authorization code, then this client app will exchange the authorization code with the access token. Okay, it will give the authorization code to the authorization server, and authorization server will provide the access token. That is the access or authorization token. Okay, so that is all about the terms, which is very important if you are using or implementing the OAuth 2.0 in your Spring Boot application, and it is only used for authorization, not for authentication. So yeah, if you have any query or the dot, you can ask me. And here I have written all the details article about this, and along with that I make a separate video for how auth 2.0 works. What you have to do, just go into the YouTube and in this channel only and try to find that video. I will show you where it is located. Just type PixelTrice YouTube. See here it got the channel name. Just click on that. Go to the video section. See how do auth 2.0 works. Understand complete flow in the simple words. I explain all the things in a detail. If you want, just go through this video. And if you feel any problem, just I written a one article for this. Just go through all the articles and you will definitely understand. So if you still face problem, just do comment in the comment section. I will definitely answer your queries. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you learned something new, and yeah, goodbye. Thanks.